Hi, it's Todd at Todd's Workshop here, and I'm back with Nick Jeffries, the Master Armourer of Netflix's The Witcher. We're talking about the weapons, the swords, the daggers that came through the Armoury Department for Series 1 on The Witcher. A lot of stuff never really properly gets seen because it's made and it just ends up in the background, or you see the front face but not the back face. And so really we're just here to talk a little bit about that today, the unseen elements, and really we've sort of called this our favourite props. So these are just some of the favourite things. So Nick, pick one up, start talking.
Okay, well, I think I might as well start with the one that's nearest to me, Todd,
Yep.
which is Remus, the Witcher that we see killed.
Yeah.
His sword was a sword we didn't have to replicate in rubber. We only see the metal, we don't see any action with it. We just basically see him carrying it and then we see him die.
So it's just one hero sword.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I had to think of my own backstory with it, and it amused me to make the backstory up that he's a little bit, doesn't like spending the money.
Yeah.
So he has a meteorite sword. Is an ordinary sword with a piece of meteorite hammer welded onto the front of it.
Yeah.
Now, this really, to me, epitomises that little bit of detail that we do that no one ever notices really, no one ever sees. If they do, they don't really realise. But it all, to me, makes the world more real.
Well, that is part of the story of all of these pieces.
Absolutely.
The things that didn't need to be there or we were never
Yes.
asked for, but we put in anyway, partly because they might be seen, and partly because it makes you feel good, or you
Yes.
can run off in your little fantasy direction there,
Yes, that's
whatever.
it. So I have really, in my own mind, created what Remus was to me.
Yeah.
I've read the script, gone away and thought about what it says about him, and then come back at it and gone, right, he's a little bit tight, a bit make do and mend kind of thing. And he's just gone to the armourer and gone, how much is that sword? I'm not paying that. Just hammer a bit of my meteorite on the end. And that's exactly what he's got here.
Yeah, it's nice. So, I mean, when I made that, it's all polished up until the joint, a little bit of texture, a little bit of roughness,
Yeah.
and then I etched the hell out of it beyond that.
Exactly. So we've got that joint, as you say, it isn't, but it looks like it's a hammer weld. Perfect.
Yeah. It is a fully functional, proper sword, blunted
Yes.
a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you can see, it's a safe-edged sword. It has a little bit more to it than just being a sword. We could have just given him a sword, but then you lose something. It's got no life to it anymore, no spirit to it. So I think it's nice to have things like that.
All right. Well, I'm going to trade you on this one, so I'll do the next
Okay.
one here. So can I nick that off you?
Of
actually?
course.
So, historically, swords are not made by blacksmiths. Blacksmiths make ploughs, they make hinges for
absolutely.
boxes. That's what blacksmiths do.
Yeah.
They don't make swords. These were made by armourers.
Yes.
But you came to me and you said, I've got a couple of thuggy guys for the dragon hunt,
Yes.
and I want them to have swords made by blacksmiths. So they weren't, this is a good 14th century sword,
Yeah.
late 14th century sword, not made by a blacksmith. So I thought, well, you know what, thuggy guys, I want to give them falchions.
Yes,
Falchions
absolutely.
work well.
Yeah, that's it.
Want to be a little bit different because this is Witcher. So we just got the rubbers now because the originals of these have been
Yes,
repurposed.
yes.
All the detail on this is a little bit rough.
Yes.
It's ropey about the edges. It's rushed. The grain on the wood has been pushed through. If a blacksmith made a sword, he might have made one a bit like this.
Absolutely.
And I like that kind of thinking that goes into these pieces.
But as I said to you, these guys, these reavers, so the reaver is an opportunist, he's a thug, just wants to get the job done. And falchions appealed to me. I can see them being someone who just hacks somebody with a sword. They're not into any massive sword play. They're not into fighting someone up with a sword. They're up to creeping up behind people at 2 o'clock in the morning and hitting them over the head with their sword. A falchion is the perfect weapon for that. As you know, falchion's original aim is they're a anti-cloth type armour, anti-leather armour rather than steel plate. Who do brigands attack? Well, they attack peasants, they attack merchants on the road. They don't have a stand-up fight with a proper knight because they'd lose.
So yeah, I enjoyed making them and I enjoyed looking at them, and they're just nice pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, Nick, your turn again.
Okay, well, I think my absolute favourite of everything in the whole set is this. The dragon hunt was a fun episode anyway. There's so much thought I put into these based on what I knew about the people. So Tyr and Veer carry identical swords. In a way, I think you can think of them as symbiont twins, or whatever way you want to think of it. They could be the same person, they're just not. So they think of the same thing roughly at the same time and fight as a pair. Each one of them knows the other one's move before they make that move. They're also very quick to anger. So my thoughts were, let the sword reflect that. So the sword has a peaceful side, which is the dragon with its mouth closed and the human in a neutral, mouth closed. It also has a rage side. So the rage shows a snarling dragon, it shows a screaming person. So it's two halves of the same person, as it were. It has a leaf pattern blade, so it's built to cut and slash. Yeah. The scabbard is an open-sided scabbard that you can draw straight out. So my thoughts were, if someone upset you, it's got to be that on that instant you can draw your sword and you could basically decapitate them, kill them, strike them with the weapon in the instant. And it's that instant flare of anger. So I built that into the swords. Also, they have dragons on their swords because they hunt dragons. But it actually turns out they're there to protect it. So they have a dragon on their sword because their job is to protect dragons. This sword sums up the personality of the people carrying it. So, yeah, I just love this sword. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, I love the blade shape on it, absolutely. And I love the copper detail at the top.
Yes.
And leaf blades are often quite difficult to make and make them look nice. And, you know, I think we absolutely nailed the form on that.
You know, that's what makes it a better object, a more believable object. If the only things you built in was the absolute things that you needed in the script, then it would be quite boring. You have to embellish your thoughts to what it's going to be.
All right, well, I'll trade you on the next one.
Okay.
And we've got a pair of shields here, which they sum up an awful lot about me and the work that we do on the show, actually. And these were seen in the fight in Blaviken for a flash, for a moment. Yes. They're barely in it, but they're there. So what you've got here is a plank shield. It's properly constructed. It's not made of plywood. We've got a steel boss here, which has got some dent, some impact damage, some fire damage, where it's actually melted the steel. You know, of course, I did that with an oxyacetylene torch.
Absolutely. No, didn't a real monster bleed on it?
Well, yeah, we had that discussion. Yes, a monster bled on the boss at this point. The planks have split apart, and I've stapled them together with little metal staples here that go through on both sides. Very medieval thing. Why throw it away if you can mend it?
Absolutely. And I think the key thing about these guys is they are brigands. They found these shields, found them on a battlefield, stole them from somebody, but they never went and paid money to have these built.
It's kind of nice because it has a backstory, but we don't know what the backstory is. It's deliberately it's hidden. But a lot of effort has been made to make the inside of the shield just as good as the outside. So all the leather rim is nailed on. We have a sheepskin pad here, which is genuinely sheepskin. It's been greased up because the guy's got a greasy arm or whatever. You know, it's been harnessed so it can be used. None of this is pretend. And the same is done on this other shield here. So again, we've got a burnt out section here. The front is covered with parchment. Everything about this is a real shield. Yes. And the thing is, it's seen for probably half a second. Yes. But when you make a prop like this, you don't know what's going to happen to it. Don't. It might end up on the edit room floor. The director might love it and say, can you bring that front and centre? He might hate it and get it buried under a hay bale. You don't know. The
fact that they were there for half a second absolutely shows that a lot of it got cut. A lot of their action got cut. But the back of the shield needs to stand up as much as the front of the shield.
It does, and also that's what makes this sort of thing rewarding for me, because years ago I used to work in special effects and I was making a lot of stuff out of MDF and, you know, fiberboard and filler and stuff like that. And that's fine, it has a role, but actually it doesn't satisfy my soul. As soon as you start putting me with wood and leather and iron and parchment, I become happy.
If we can do it properly, for real, why would we not do that? If we can use real wood, why would we use MDF? We've used real components in a real way because we can.
And you get a
And it
result which
stands
is
up.
real.
And you get a result that's real, yeah. That's one of the fun bits about what we do, I think.
Nick, next one.
So for my next choice, I'm going to take this. So the first thing I have to do is apologise, Todd, this is not one of yours. I'm very lucky that I have a team of really good craftsmen who work for me, such as yourself. The gentleman who made this, Joe, does a wonderful job for me and makes many of my items. This is a bit of sculpture in steel that he's done for me. So this is Philla Vandrel's dagger, the first elf or elven weapon that we see. This has a dragon head, forked tongue. It's old, so it's been rusty and cleaned back a few times. The blade is very, well, it's cookery-esque. So this is one of my favourite daggers, simply because it's so different. It's such a statement piece. It also, I think, fits the person who carries it very well. It's a good statement about him and his people. So that's my next choice.
What I find interesting about that, I mean, it is great work by Joe. There's a signature to it. There is a style that is different from one maker to another. So, you know, I've made the rest of the pieces on the table here, and there is a very distinct style to those. And then there becomes a different style to that. And that all comes in and it works very well. And whether you make guitars or cars or houses or whatever it is you do, other people who work in that area will recognise the work. Totally. But amongst knife makers, there is a complete language there.
Everything I come up with, I read the script, I break it down, starting to design the weapons, put down the basics of the weapon. But when I've got more hook on the idea of what it is, I think that this would be the perfect job for such and such. Yeah. Whether it be a sword, whether it be leather work or anything. I have a few makers in the same field, and they are different people, and their style is different, and their style might suit different things better. The last thing you want is to have all the props and go, why does his sword resemble his sword when it was made 400 years earlier in a country 3,000 miles away? Yeah. It starts to not make sense. You know, it's another thing about detail, you know.
No, absolutely. Well, I'll trade you Joe's dagger for another one of mine. So this was the Doppelganger's dagger, and it's the Dürer dagger. Dürer being an artist that really did exist in the late 15th and 16th century. Artists then obviously had a job making a living, as they do now. And so in his off time or whatever, he had a catalogue of designs, of knife designs. You could go and buy a design off him, take it to the cutler, who would then make you a dagger to suit. So this is based on drawings out of his book. It's a lovely piece. You know, I've always loved it. Completely over the top, ostentatious,
yep.
But
it just suits a doppelganger. It just feels right. You know, when something you go, do you know what? This is an opportunity for that. This is the piece. Well, I can't say exactly why, but you know when something just seems a perfect fit, that seems a perfect
maybe
fit.
It is. It's because he's got the same face on both sides.
Absolutely.
So maybe it was as simple as that.
Yeah, it could be.
All right, lovely. So the last one on the table is the Major's dagger.
Last but no means least is the Ronin Mage dagger. I think a favourite of both of ours.
Yeah, absolutely.
A definite favourite. I really like this dagger. Again, I mean, I don't actually own anything really of real stuff, but I do have an Indian dagger from about the 1750s of a very similar style, which I have to admit I based this heavily on. This point is made, as you know, to separate chainmail, but it just looks fantastic.
But it's ridiculously reinforced, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, that's 5/8 of an inch, 15 mil wide. It's just a massive chunk of steel on the end.
It is. So we gave it the eared type of grip, so you can put your thumb on it when you stab down. And we made it a little bit bigger, and we straightened it out a little bit from the Indian style. The Indian is much more of a curve, really. This is a fantastic item for him. This implies travel. This implies that he's travelled to lands outside of where he lives. And he has seen something, and this is his dagger, because he liked it, he liked the style, and he had this built. Yeah, it just, to me, gives a whole extra story and a whole extra background and meaning to the Ronin Mage. Now, we don't see it that much on
No, it's another
So,
one of those in and out.
I don't think we even ever see the scabbard. I'm not even sure if that's even caught. But we do see the dagger flying through the air, which is in fact about the final shot we did with this. And this dagger has something built into it which shows that. So when we'd done everything else, we then drilled a hole through the dagger and put a small threaded rod in
This
there.
is what I have to put up with my work,
Exactly,
all right?
because tragically it has to do its job. And as lovely as it is, the other thing that I always say about this, it's not original. We made it. Well, in fact, you made it. Just for thing. So if I came to you and said, make me 20 more, I'd have 20 more. So we just have to be prepared to do what we do. This has that stud on it, which is its circle point. So we could set this up on a stand and run it round like so and film it. That then morphs into the visual effects shot of it flying through the air. And that was its final shot, really. And it still has the stud in.
What I really like about this, again, is it comes back to that quality of detail that's there, front and back. Like you just said, we didn't even see the scabbard. But you turn onto the back of the scabbard, you know, and even the suspension fittings are, you know, they're riveted in place, bent brass. You know, nice bit of decoration on the front over a wooden scabbard. But then we come to the knife itself, and you know, we've got, okay, it's not actually a laminated steel blade, but we've etched it to make it look like it was. But then all of this is gold plated. It's gold plated up here. The studs are silver. You know, we've got horn handles, everything highly polished. It's a really high status, lovely piece. It's a lovely, lovely piece. And yet it's only seen briefly, you know, but that I think is the sort of attention to detail and the sort of care that makes these scenes really work.
Yes.
You know, it really does. And I think, you know, I'm a relative outsider to the Witcher production. I make the stuff off site and hand it over to you. But the impression that I get is that everything about it is really being cared about. And I think that's great. You know, it's really rewarding to work for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I have good and skilled people working on it. I want that craftsmanship to show through into the finished item.
So I think that's probably it. So once again, thank you very much, Nick.
Welcome.
So Nick and Todd's favourite pieces that weren't seen massively from Netflix's The Witcher Series 1, but ones that we love and like nonetheless.
Absolutely, and I would add to that I think these bits are worth looking out for. I would say why not go and re-watch it and look for these bits, because you'll see it in there somewhere.
Yeah, they are there.
They are there.
But anyway, thank you very much, and there'll be more to come.